It's National Signing Day here at BYU. I'm Jared Lloyd, BYU football reporter and sports editor for the Daily Herald, here with Jason Franchuk. We're at BYU outside the BYU Broadcasting Center. Well, we just talked to BYU head coach Bronco Mendenhall and athletic director Tom Hommel and recruiting coordinator Joe Dupay about BYU's signing class. They're bringing in 17 new players and 12 returning missionaries, was the big topic of the day today. Jason, what are your thoughts as you're looking at this particular recruiting class?
I got to tell you, Jared, I get excited for signing day, but not in the way of the 2-star, 3-star, 4-star. I tweeted out earlier, I like this because we all remember being that age when you're making the big decision in your life, where to go, where are they possibly going to meet their spouse, where are they going to go and learn what they're interested in going to school. And I know that's hokey and everything, and you wish more schools thought like that, but I think BYU's pretty good about trying to find the right kids. That Bronco talked about needing the environment.
And sometimes when young men don't choose BYU, it's viewed as a loss by our program. Remember, they're actually choosing, it's not something that they want. So it's really a success for both, not only BYU, but the school they choose, because it's probably going to be a better experience for them, because we're so clear of what the standards are. And I want them to really want those rather than to feel like they have to do them.
But also, they will respect the environment. This is a different place, a unique place, but this recruiting class, you look at it, there's pretty good athleticism. I think they fill some needs, not all of them. They got 3 quarterbacks in this class, and everybody knows what's going on with quarterback at the school right now. But I think where they go forward is Bronco talked about him being most comfortable with these kids being able to handle the environment right away. And I remember 7-8 years ago when Bronco was doing this, he didn't seem nearly as enthralled with the recruiting process with signing day. But I think right now he's got a pretty good hold of how he can succeed in this program. And we'll see, hey, let the chips fall where they may. I argued with somebody on Twitter earlier today, and it's a 50-50 proposition, it seems like. You look at some of the best players to come out of BYU and Utah in the recent years, and they've been totally unheralded. But you get some kids that pan out, but I think going forward, they like this recruiting class, and I think Bronco's really excited to get them here.
There are 2 4-star recruits that are probably the biggest names in Troy Hines out of Davis High School up in Kaysville, in that area, Davis County, and also Tanner Mangum, quarterback out of Idaho. Thoughts on those 2 guys? Those are probably the most high-profile guys that are coming in with this particular class.
Yeah, you need those kids, and Bronco talks about the recruiting services, and he tries not to lean on them too much, but you need to not only give your program a chance, but you need to give the fan base a chance to understand that you're going after the best possible kids in the area. You talk about in-state recruiting. I've talked to a lot of high school coaches that they like when their kids go out of state, but let's face it, there's a lot of pressure on those coaches, BYU, Utah, otherwise, to keep those kids here. I think Troy's going to be a solid player. Tanner, I think they need him in a few years down the road after he goes on a mission and everything. They got Taysom Hill coming back from a mission. He's already here, served a mission in Australia. He had originally committed to Stanford. So they're giving themselves a chance within the frame of, will the kids respect the environment again? I think they've got those types of kids right now.
Okay, so yeah, we've got Taysom Hill coming back, Ammon Olsen, also a quarterback that they're going to be looking at when Riley Nelson finishes up. Quarterback's always a big position that people care about. Is there a guy in this particular class that maybe people haven't heard as much about that might be a contributor?
I think the guy Bronco kept talking about was Jamal Williams, and he's a 16-year-old kid. He's got a background. You know, BYU goes on family backgrounds sometimes. Well, this kid's got the genetic background as far as he's got Olympians in his family and everything. And he's only 16 though, so we'll see how he fills in. But that's a position where you look at quarterback, like you mentioned, Jared. They also need a running back right now, and you know they'll have Lisa. I gotta sing it one more time. It's been a while, but they need help there. They're gonna lose JJ DeLuigi, Brian Correa. They need people to fill that spot. We'll see what happens with Josh Quezada. He hasn't quite panned out like anybody thought he would yet, but he's still young. But I think you look at him, and it was interesting to hear Bronco tell some of the stories about some of these kids, how they found them, what their interests were in the school and things like that. And I think that's what people kind of forget, is people want to look at just measurables, how fast they run, how big they are, and things like that. But there is so much more that goes into recruiting. And I've said it for a while now, Jared, that Bronco's done a very good job as far as, I think you have to trust coaches on this, as far as they've had very few off-field incidents. I think they've got a good program that we'll see how much better they can get. I know you're going to write about just how good this program can be, but I think they've got the right kids that maybe want to come in and try to improve, and that's as much as anything, because we know with recruiting some kids can kind of let it go by the wayside after that, after it's done.
Yeah, I am going to focus on whether, BYU BYU can be an elite program. Talked a little bit to Coach Mendenhall and Tom Hommel about whether BYU can be an elite program when they're not going to get top 10 level recruiting classes. They're just not. They're not in that position. They've got to go after their own guys. They generally get most of those guys, but they've got to really build with the guys that they get. And that's what it's going to, they're going to have these guys really excel after they get here.
If indeed the number of wins doesn't document that we're already at the elite level. And maybe the threshold of BCS is the standard that we have to achieve before we're crowned like that. But I don't think we're far away, and I think we're really in the hunt for that almost every year. So we'll just continue to try to improve the program to get there, knowing that it's probably going to take an undefeated season to do that.
You look back at the other way, I think where BYU's one advantage to me, Jared, is always this place stands for something. It's polarizing on some level. People don't always agree with what it stands for, being a religious school and all. But I think when you get guys, you look at, I mentioned, not always the top tier guys being the best players, but you look at the David Nixons. Brian Keel, I know, was recruited, but maybe not nationally, maybe not an LSU guy, but they've had plenty of guys, Johnny Harley and Dennis Pitta. Those are guys that were willing to come into the environment and work hard, and I think they've got the environment to allow guys to get better that are willing to do that.
Well, we're only a month away now, just a little over a month away before spring football practice starts. That begins on March 5th. That's when we'll be back talking more BYU football as Coach Mendenhall tries to get this team ready for the 2012 football season.
Probably be snowing in March, won't it?
It probably will, since it's been nice in January. So we'll probably be out there on the practice field in a blizzard.